GameDay Garage presents Campus Blitz with PJ Glasser and Ryan Horvath.
Hey, Pat, how's it going?
It's going good. Going good.
Appreciate you joining Pat Dooley. Check out another Dooley Noted podcast on Mondays and Thursdays, wherever you get your podcasts, and give Pat a follow on X at Pat_Dooley. Before you were hopping on, I was talking about John Summerall, and it certainly feels like he's won the offseason from an interviewing standpoint. Have Gator fans, how excited are they about their new coach down there in Gainesville?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there is a little bit. I mean, this is a fan base that is very much scarred, whether it's Will Muschamp losing to Georgia Southern or, Jim McElwain's shark attacks and, Mullen, who everybody thought they had discovered a guy who was going to go to New Year's Six Bowls and maybe win the SEC and could beat Georgia. And then his final year was just an absolute disaster. And then 4 years of Billy Napier, which obviously did not go well at all. So I think people are hoping and they believe that this guy might be the guy, but they also know that this is still a 4-8 roster, It's still a roster that was kind of gave up last year and didn't play hard until the last game because they were playing a bad team. So I think there is cautious optimism, which I think is a word people use a lot, but that's true.
What would you say, Pat, is the biggest question mark about this roster that you have going into the season?
Well, mine's still going to stay the offensive line. I know that everybody is saying offensive line and back end of the secondary. I think the back end of the secondary is actually going to be okay. I think they're going to get better coaching, and I think that they're I think they've got, in Bryce Thornton, they've got a senior leader, and that's going to help them a lot. They brought in some guys that are going to help them. I think they're going to be fine if they can get a pass rush, which I think they'll be able to do, obviously with Jaden Woods. But that offensive line, I know that John likes to talk about how much they are bench pressing now that they couldn't bench press before. And that's good. It's great. But, when he starts talking about they're going to build a line that's a little more athletic and leaner and everything, I go, well, that's exactly what Dan Mullen did. And it actually worked for 3 years. A leaner, quicker guys that could move around offensive line. But I still have to see it to believe it. Last year they had a guy who's looks like he's going to make an NFL roster in Austin Barber, and they had Jake Slaughter, who was an All-American. And they weren't good on the offensive line. So I got to see what these guys could do. I will say that they needed to get leaner in many ways. And one way was you'd see these guys with these big guts hanging out. And you go, well, I guess, you're allowed to eat 8 quarter pounders before the game. That's fine. Guys ordering DoorDash and like at midnight before a game. So that's what it looked like. And they looked like that on the field.
Yeah, the O-line's definitely a big question. I know the secondary is too for the Gators coming into the season. Have you kind of seen any guys emerge in camp? Are there any guys that they're high on this season? Or do you think the secondary definitely, along with the offensive line, another big question for Florida?
Well, it's an issue, but I think they've got players that can do things back there and be okay. Cormani McClain is a guy that is really a big – I got to wait and see what he does. I mean, he had a pick last year. But he was okay last year, but he wasn't great. One thing I do like about the new coordinator and Brad White is that he is kind of said to these guys, you make a great play, that's fine. You don't have to celebrate like it's the end of the series. Get back, get ready for the next play, because the next play can get burned. And I've said it's not just Florida, but a lot of teams do this. But certainly for Florida, you're 4-8. You shouldn't be celebrating anything. So that's something that they've got to get way better at. And again, that goes back to what I'm talking about. The one reason that they are 14-26 in the last 4 years in the SEC is because they gave up too many explosive plays. And he said, Brad White said, we've got to lead the league and not giving up explosive plays instead of the other way around.
Who do you think is going to be the quarterback? If they had a game tomorrow, if week 1 was starting tomorrow, who do you think would be under center for the Gators?
Oh, I think it'd be Aaron Philo, but it doesn't mean he'll be the quarterback for the Auburn game. And that's the game that is going to, I think, define the beginning of this season and maybe define the whole season. If they can go to Auburn and win, that'll be one thing. If they go to Auburn and lose, I think now everybody goes, maybe it's not going to go so great. Again, that's putting way too much on one game early in the season, but it's an important game. And I think it's important for both teams. I think the winner of that game, assuming Auburn handles Baylor, in the battle of quarterbacks who played against each other last year, but for other teams, which is so weird. But I don't think there's any question if Auburn handles Baylor that the winner of that game is going to be ranked. So it's an important game. But I think I think they're going to play them both early in the season, especially. You got Florida Atlantic. I think Philo is the starter. And then if they get to a situation where they feel comfortable putting Tramel Jones in, I think he goes in. And then the next game is against Campbell, the Fighting Campbells. And if, they should be playing Aiden Warner in that game and they could win. So, but that Auburn game is going to be crucial. And whoever starts that game, you're going to feel like, but they made it very clear. Start the season doesn't mean you're the quarterback the whole season.
Yeah, they get that Auburn game in week 3, and then you know what, Pat? They get Ole Miss the following week, who'll be coming off the LSU game with Kiffin and all that emotion there. So, with that game being at home, who knows? Maybe they can turn that into a little 4-0 start heading in to the Missouri game. Sticking with the offense, I really like the hire, getting Buster Faulkner as the OC. Did a great job at Georgia Tech. Would you expect a heavy dose of running this year? Certainly with Jaden Ball, who's one of the best backs in the SEC. But whether it's Philo or Jones, do you think we see the Gators really use the ground game this year?
Yeah, I mean, they'd be stupid not to. And they were stupid not to last year, but they didn't use it enough. And then all of a sudden in the last game, they say, hey, let's just give the ball to Jaden Ball and see what happens. And he goes for like 200 yards against FSU. So, they want to use him in multiple ways. He's a pretty good pass catcher too. Getting him the ball out of the backfield and space and putting him in position. He's going to be a workhorse on this team. I asked specifically to Buster Faulkner at the first media day of the year last week. I said, is there a fine line between using Jaden Ball too much and not using him enough? And certainly we've seen that. And there's been a history at Florida where they try to play 3 guys and they've got one that's elite. Damian Pierce fell into that category too. But I don't think they're just going to be exclusively run. They're going to throw a lot of swing passes. They're going to try to get him in other ways. But you can't just say we're going to pound the ball when you got Vernell Brown III and Dallas Wilson, who looks like he's healthy with his new cleats. And Eric Singleton, who everybody's raving about in camp from Auburn. And plus you got Micah Mays from Wake Forest. You got a lot of good receivers. So what are you going to do? You got to get them the ball too. There's only one ball. And that's the thing that I am really curious to see how Buster Faulkner works that out, because I don't really have an answer for that. I'm looking forward to seeing how they can figure out how to get the ball to all their weapons. And that's going to be the key for whoever plays quarterback, distributing, the Chris Leak way, as I like to call it, or even the Torian Green way when he was a point guard on those national champions. Get the ball to the people that can score.
Pat, before I let you go in about a minute, Vegas win total is about 7 for Florida. They're pretty much seeing like a 7-5 year, which I think feels about right. Is that kind of how you see it? Like Florida, they'll make a bowl game, 6 or 7 wins this year, or if all goes right, I mean, do you think there's a world where maybe they win like 9 games this year?
Oh, I think there's a world where they can win 9 games. I'm not sure I'm living in it, but I think they could win 10 if he's that good a coach. I mean, we're about to find out if it translates to being a head coach at this level. And we know how tough their schedule is. It's not as tough as it was last year, though. Not as tough as the year before, but it's still really hard. Not very many people in the SEC get easy schedules. So, I think 7-4 is about right, or 7-5 is about right. I picked them to go 8-4, and I maybe was sleeping a little on Oklahoma at home, so I've kind of gone back to 7-5. But again, I can't wait to see what is going to happen I just have no idea right now whether this is going to work or not.
Year one for John Summerall in Gainesville. Going to be a fascinating one to watch. Pat Dooley, check him out on another Dooley Noted podcast, Mondays and Thursdays, wherever you get your podcasts, and give him a follow on X at Pat_Dooley. Pat, appreciate the time, man. Have a great season. Hope to catch up with you again soon.
Yeah, anytime, guy. It was fun.
Yeah. All right. Great stuff. Pat Dooley, a lot of fun talking Gators.